aspect of the paranormal, from abductees to mediums to you name it. So you've got that all covered too.
Oh, yeah, and I just want to say a shout out to David, to Sean, and everybody else out there is listening, Greg, on Facebook Live. But, yeah, I just wanted to get my views out here today and, share it because I was frustrated. I'll tell you, at one point, I'll be honest with you, this morning I looked at all this from what people, and it wasn't just one or two emails or one or two texts. It was a lot. And honestly, I kind of felt like, do I need this in my life? And I felt like pulling the plug and canceling doing my show anymore. That's how I felt this morning. And I took a little nap and I kept dreaming about my show. Do I want to cancel doing my show anymore? And then it hit me. Why should I take any more? And, I realized I love doing this. So if I took this away from me right now, this is my life. I enjoy talking. God, do you know, James, when I was 10 years old, my dad, being an electronic engineer at Boeing's, realized I had a huge mouth. He came home with an old CB radio, an old Cartophone. It put out like 2.5 watts. I could talk maybe a couple miles from my house. And the next thing I know, my dad put up an antenna like 60 feet up and got me a nice CB radio. And it was illegal, but I was talking to Australia, Germany, all this stuff on my CB radio on, 4 watts output. And then that wasn't good enough for me. At 12 years old, I decided to get my general ham license, and I got my ham license. And I carried that on to, I went into commercial, and then I let it expire. Big mistake. I'm about ready here in 2 weeks ago to go for my general and get it back because I love talking. But, that's been a big part of my life. I love radio. And that's what got me into commercial radio, doing talk shows and playing top 40 and all that stuff, is because I enjoy the microphone. Maybe I'm a attention whore.
Well, I would say this much. I would say for health reasons, you should not dare pull the plug on it because it gives you life. It gives you motivation, and it's part of you. It's what keeps you going, man. I don't let him or anybody win. You keep going. It's you. You wouldn't be you without it.
Well, thank you, James. That means a lot. And people like Timothy Cullen, who just tuned in here on Facebook Live, he's been on my show several times. He was a great guest. He was abducted, I think the 12th or 13th implant removal from the late Dr. Roger Lear. I loved talking to him on the show because he had so much to say about, being abducted, the implant, how it was removed, about that. But, when I was talking to him, I found out a relative, I can't remember if it was from his wife or whatever, was on the Titanic.
Oh, my.
And
wow.
So he had, the stories he heard, he relayed that over the air, too. It was so awesome. That's what I like about the show. It's entertainment. And that's what Art used to tell me. Art would say, look, your show is nothing more than entertainment. You're not a reporter. You're just a host. And the whole point is to make it interesting for the listeners.
And you know what? You and your show is important to millions of people. Look at all the listeners you have, and it affects and touches a lot of people with entertainment or whatever it may be. So a lot of people they look forward to your shows, and then you got the guests who it affects them so they can get their word out or whatever it is they've got to say. So it's a good thing. You definitely wouldn't pull the plug on it because it would affect thousands, if not millions of people.
Well, I've had guests on my show that, let's say, they wrote a book. And they flatly told me, they'd done everything they could to get their book to sell. And after they've been on my show, I get a reply from them a few days later. They're saying, wow, they sold a lot of books because coming on my show. And all of a sudden, they had a whole bunch of extra Facebook friends. Now, I can't say every guest who wrote a book on my show has sold a lot of books. But, I've heard that feedback. That makes me feel good because it means I'm doing my job. But again, a lot of people don't realize if you go write a book, no one's going to know that you wrote that book. I mean, you can put it up on Facebook all day long. and only a small percentage of the same people day after day is going to see it. A lot of people don't know what it takes to promote their book or their movie or whatever they've done. And the ones who are successful are the ones who get on podcasts and talk shows on a daily basis for a period of time and promote the hell out of what they're trying to do. Those are the ones that become successful. They're the ones that contact every bookstore in their state to see if they can do a book signing and go to it. And those are the people that make it. And I'm sorry, I'm being blunt, but there's people out there, it has no understanding what it takes. The same way with my show. I went from 15 people, okay, to who knows how many people. But, I still remember back a few months ago, I was like sound asleep and I get a phone call like at 4 o'clock in the morning. It is some radio station in Spain. Okay, the host happened to love my show. And he woke me up from a dead sleep and he goes, I'm with such and such radio in Spain. He mentioned the town. I can't even remember it is. He goes, that your show is loved here in Spain. I didn't even know people in Spain, I guess some of them that understand English listen to my show. It was a big shock to me.
So that just goes to, see, you're not just national, you're international, you're worldwide. A lot of people listen and tune in. Even if it's not live, they will download or listen later or whatnot. So that's a lot of listeners.
It is, but I have one thing I don't understand, and maybe it's my fault. Maybe you can tell me, James. You know what it is, okay, I have a huge live listenership off of a couple of different apps. I use only Speaker for one reason only. It's the only way I could get on frickin' iTunes. But, I use a local company in Kent, Washington. It sends from my servers out to everywhere, to the radio stations. I use them. And on all the major apps, I got tons of people, downloading my show and playing it off, later on demand. A lot of truckers listen to my show. A huge audience out of the UK, Australia, Netherlands. They're all, it shocks me every day when I get an email from somebody. I got a guest coming on next month. She does a podcast out of Germany. She's a big fan of my show. I didn't even know these people existed. And it's from 15 people to what it is now. I mean, it's a big shock.
Well, I always say all crap flows to the surface. So if you're doing a quality show, eventually the word will get out there and people will catch on and listen to it, and word of the mouth, and they'll listen to it here and there, and you will continue to grow and grow as long as you keep putting out the quality show that you put out with quality of guests.
Well, I even actually at one point had different talk show hosts that were calling me up on the phone and acting buddy, and then pumping me for information. And after a while, I started realizing, I'm giving them answers because they said they had respect for me because I was on radio off and on for so long. They wanted, some information. How could they pick up radio stations? How can they do this? How can they get listeners? And I was naive. I used to sit there and give them all these suggestions, right? And then one day, my agent come up and he goes, "What in the blank are you doing?"
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing? You're hurting yourself. Don't do this. So I went and unfriended. Now I'm in a butthole with them too, but I unfriended a whole bunch of show hosts off of my Facebook accounts because it was funny. All of a sudden I would have a guest, they would have that guest. I would have a topic, they would have that topic. And then I just realized, hey, I'm blocking them. That's it. It's over. So I don't care. They can have whatever they want on their shows. I don't care because I don't see it no more.
Right. And you're your own person anyway, and you don't need them. They need you.
No, they need themselves. Okay? I'm just me, myself.
There you go.
Yeah. And no, I'm not drinking coffee. I'm not drinking Coke. The doctor said drink a lot of tea without sugar. That's what I'm doing. I'll tell you, the biggest thing I had was getting off of soda. the migraines for about 4 or 5 days, the withdrawal. People don't realize you get withdrawals when you stop drinking soda.
Yeah, believe me, I know. I tried it. I got headaches. I had to ease off slowly taper off. But I do see you still got a cigar going on there once in a while, Mr. Gary.
No, I don't smoke cigars. I'll tell you what. Okay, my studio is 15 by 20, 21, something like that. Okay, I have all this soundproofing in here. Okay, just not what you see here. It goes around everything except for the roof has soundproofing on it. And I wasn't going to do the roof because my wife would have killed me. But, I do have a little over up here. You don't see it, a 4-foot section of soundproofing to get rid of the echo. But I tell you what, it absorbs the smell of these things. Okay, so when you walk in here, if you're a non-smoker, because my wife has asthma, walks in here and starts gagging from the smell, or you open up the studio door, it kind of reeks through the house. But, I'll be in here doing my show, right? The reason why I normally don't do Facebook Live is because you can't see me with a camera. You can't see me, even right now you can see me. But after I have about 3 of these in 2 hours in this room with the door closed, no ventilation, you can't see me. It looks like the worst case of London fog you've ever seen.
In the 1870s London with all the coal burning and stuff, it's like you can't see 2 feet in front of you.
No, you can't. And that's how bad it was. And it still gets that way. And so, I'm surprised I do have a kill switch over here that when I start hacking, if I'm on Facebook Live, I can't kill that feed. So you're going to hear me hack. The radio side don't hear it because I push a button. So, I'm sitting here smoking and all of a sudden I go through this hacking thing. Smoking is not good for you. Don't do it.
Your poor wife comes in the room with a hacksaw to cut through the smoke to get to you. Jeez.
Well, the perfect example, last night, my wife, after my show, because she works late, she comes in here with a dish of food, which is a couple of little pieces of watermelon, a slice of celery, and 2 ounces of some type of meat. That's my dinner. And she opened up the door, and you could see her complexion of her face go pure white. Because of, she opens the door. The first thing, what happens? It's like all the smoke, as soon as you open that door, starts going out that door.
Yeah, drafts it right to you.
Yeah, and she's having a hard time, without running into anything, to find my desk to put the plate down for she could run out so fast because she can't see anything in here.
She got to get her a gas mask to come in there. Good Lord.
I don't know, but, she puts up with me. That's, she's one of my biggest fans. So I what can I say?
Really, I'm just curious if you ever borrow her car anymore.
Oh, you have to bring that up. I drove her car this past weekend. Oh, everybody, I am great with electronics. Now, if you got a desk you got to put together from the box or a bookcase, don't ask me to do it because I'll have parts left over. This Saturday, our hot water tank. Now, my house is 39 years old. Believe it or not, it is still the original hot water tank in my house.
Wow.
Okay? It stopped producing hot water. Now, my one son is all upset. He goes, well, go push the reset button. I said, well, I did, but the wire going to the thermostat, melted. So I realized one of the elements was, gone in the water heater. So I remember the last time the plumber was here, 9-10 years ago, said you can't run 2 elements anymore in your hot water tank because it's so old, it'll burst. So I only run 1 element in my hot water tank. Now, I go down to the local hardware store, the biggest one in the country. They sell me an element, which is a screw-in. In the right wattage, because it only can be 4,000 watts. Anything less than that, again, you could put in there, but it would take forever. But the issue was, I start going in, I shut the water valve off, the intake, outtake of the hot water tank. Okay, which now these valves have calcium build up on the outside of the shafts of the, where you turn the spigot to turn it off, that are about an inch thick of calcium.
Oh, God.
Okay, well, I knew